I think it has become painfully obvious that single-player games aren't going anywhere. In just 2018 so far, we have had so many great PlayStation 4 single-player games, and that's what we're covering in today's video. Specifically looking at 10 of the best single-player experiences of 2018 thus far. Now, this is so far. This video is being recorded on August 20th. Games like Spider-Man, games like Valkyria Chronicles 4 are not released yet. And if they turn out to be really good, which I'm sure they will be, I'm sure we will do an updated video towards the end of the year and they will be present on that list. But without further ado, this is the top 10 PS4 single player games of 2018 so far. Let's get right into this. First up, we have Shadow of the Colossus. Now, Shadow of the Colossus was released on the PlayStation 2 way back in the day. It was remastered on the PlayStation 3, but this PlayStation 4 version is a ground-up remake done by Bluepoint Games. Bluepoint have done a lot of other remasters and remakes, so you know their work is gonna be top-notch. And that's what we got with Shadow of the Colossus. The fundamental gameplay design was already there for a masterclass of a game, but what was helped out with this version is from a technical sense. Shadow of the Colossus on the PlayStation 2 was way ahead of its time, and it did really falter from a technical aspect when we talked about things like frame rate, but on the PlayStation 4, those shackles have been completely removed. And if you have a PlayStation 4 Pro, you can play this game at 60 frames per second even, and that looks great. On the Pro, you can also play the game at 1440p upscale to 4K, and that looks incredible as well. Shadow of the Colossus is one of the most iconic games in history, and if you've yet to ever play it or you just want to revisit it, the PlayStation 4 version is the way to go. Next up, we have God of War. Now, God of War might be the most popular PlayStation exclusive of all time. We do know that commercially this game has done incredibly well, and rightfully so, because this is an absolutely amazing game. Take it from somebody like me that does think the game is a little bit overrated, but even I think it's the best PlayStation 4 game thus far. And at the very least, you have to think it's among the top 2 or 3. It's on that tier with games like Uncharted 4, those games that come out very infrequently, but really transcend gaming. God of War is absolutely that, and it's an incredible single-player experience that really keeps you absorbed into the game's world, story, gameplay. It's all crafted at an insanely high level, and by the way, God of War is discounted as a part of the Attack of the Blockbuster sale right now. $34 for this game. That is an absolute bargain. Next up, we have a recent release that's been taking the gaming world by storm, and that is Dead Cells. Dead Cells is a game that I was following for quite a while. It was a part of PC and Steam's early access program for quite a while, and then it finally saw its release on other platforms and its official release. And this game quickly took over the gaming world. Now, I know there was some controversy that gave this game some extra publicity. That controversy wasn't actually about the gameplay itself. It was a little exterior event. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, but no point in going into that right now. What we can tell you is that Dead Cells is an awesome game, and when I first started playing the game, I was like, wow, I didn't really get what all the hype was about. It started off very simplistic. There didn't seem to be a lot of depth to the game. Yeah, it does have a great art style, and then you just keep playing the game, and it starts opening up, and you realize there's a lot to this game with all of the different weapons, the minute gameplay mechanics, the attention to detail. It's very, very good, and you guys know I love the presentation style that Dead Cells has got going on for it. It's a budget title at that. $25 is a great price for this game, and it's a game that you can invest a lot of time into, so make sure if you're a fan of Metroidvania style games, Dead Cells is an absolute must buy. Next up, we have arguably the best JRPG of 2018 so far, and that is Ninokuni 2 Revenant Kingdom. Now, Ninokuni 2 Revenant Kingdom is the follow-up to last generation's Ninokuni Wrath of the White Witch, but you can jump right into Ninokuni 2 and enjoy the story no problem. I've told a lot of people I played Ninokuni on the PlayStation 3 and I absolutely love that game. I have such high regards for that game, so it was going to be impossible for Ninokuni 2 to live up to my expectations, and it didn't. My expectations were so high, and while I really enjoyed Ninokuni 2, I would have to say the first game is a bit better. Ninokuni 2 is still a very good game. It's got a great story, and this is one of those JRPGs that I think it's fine for a newcomer to the genre to try out. The story is about a former king trying to reclaim his kingdom. The main character is very likable, and all the characters are very likable. You don't have too many Japanese tropes that are going to turn off gamers. The only thing that really turned me off is some of the side content. The side content wasn't all too great, but overall, I would still say this is a very good JRPG, and right now you can find it discounted, so I would definitely give it a look. Next up, we have Celeste. Celeste was a game released earlier this year, and it got an incredible critical reception. It's a platformer where you play as a girl named Madeline as she makes her way up a mountain while avoiding various deadly obstacles. It's a very challenging platformer with a very charming design, so when you just look at screenshots, you're like, oh, this game's not going to be all too challenging. Trust me, it is a little bit difficult, but it's a very addicting game as well. Celeste is another game that has a great art style that's right up my alley. I think the style of art style Celeste has works great for budget titles. If a $60 comes out with this kind of art style, I think it's going to turn a lot of people off, but when you release a budget game, a smaller game, I think this art style really shines in that way. And again, the gameplay is top notch. If you're even remotely into platformers, Celeste is going to be right up your alley and you're going to really enjoy it. Next up, we have Detroit Become Human. Now, we talk so much about PlayStation 4 exclusives. The entire PlayStation community talks about PS4 exclusives, but it usually revolves around games like God of War, games like Spider-Man, games like Uncharted. There are this nucleus of other PlayStation 4 exclusives that released a little fanfare but are still great games, and Detroit Become Human is absolutely that. It's a game done by Quantic Dreams. It's got a very good story. It's got some mature themes, which is known for Quantic Dreams titles. The characters are great. Of course, it's relatively light on gameplay, but that's what the Quantic Dreams titles are. Visually, it's fantastic, and if you've played the previous Quantic Dreams games, Detroit Become Human, once again, you'll very much enjoy it. Now, is Detroit among the absolute best PS4 exclusives? No, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. Far from it. The best PS4 exclusives have just set the bar so high that if a game falls a little bit short of that, it's still a great game, and that's what we have with Detroit Become Human. And by the way, while I did say this game's a little underrated, it did do rather well commercially, so good on Quantic Dreams with that. Next up, I want to give a shout to the Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2. Now, being somebody that grew up with Mega Man X, maybe I'm a little bit partial to this, but I still think the Mega Man X Legacy Collection are great games to jump into the Mega Man franchise with. I think the issue with the first set of Mega Man Legacy Collections is it's a little bit slower paced, it's a little bit more punishing. With Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2, the X games in general, they just keep you off and running. They're a lot easier than the original set of Mega Man games, and sometimes you need the easier experiences to be introduced to a franchise. You don't need these punishingly difficult experiences to jump into Mega Man. The Mega Man X games are a lot more fast-paced. Visually, they are a lot better than the original Mega Man games, and in my opinion, I did enjoy them more. Now, as far as which of the Mega Man X games are good, X1 through X4 are all very good. Those are on X Legacy Collection 1. X Legacy Collection 2, lesser so. X5 and X6 are very good games. Everybody seems to hate X7, and I'm on board with that. It's not a very good game, but I don't think it's absolutely god-awful. And I thought X8 was rather good as well. I think both collections are worth owning, and you can buy it physically for $40, and you get 8 games. Would say that is a very good deal. Just bear in mind, these games are rather short. You can complete them in around 3 to 4 hours each, but there definitely is some replay value in there as well. Next up, we have Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. Now, Yakuza is a franchise that we always go to bat for on this channel, and it's great to see that it's getting more recognition as a franchise. After the release of Yakuza 0 and Yakuza Kiwami last year, we had Yakuza 6 this year. We're coming up on the release of Yakuza Kiwami 2, and I just mentioned Yakuza 6, and that was released a few months ago, but it was released right around the time of God of War, and it seemed like the majority of PlayStation 4 gamers were busy with God of War at that point, but Yakuza 6 is a fantastic game as well. Now, obviously, the comparisons to God of War are gonna come into play. Is it as good of a game as God of War? They're two completely different games, but if you want to judge strictly on review scores and things like that, Yakuza 6 did not score as well as God of War, but it's an incredible Yakuza game nonetheless, and if you've never played a Yakuza game, maybe start off with Yakuza 0 or Yakuza Kiwami, but if you want to jump right into Yakuza 6, the gameplay mechanics are deep, there's a lot of variety, and yes, it is a little bit zany, but at the same time, you've got a great mature story in there as well. If you want to wait for Yakuza 6 to get a little bit cheaper, by all means do that, but for now, if you've never played a Yakuza game, at least give Yakuza 0 a look. That game became a PlayStation Hits title, and hopefully by the time you're done with that, Yakuza 6 is a little bit cheaper and more of an enticing purchase. Regardless, I thought the game was absolutely worth $60, so if you have any interest in the game, I would check it out. Next up, we have the Banner Saga Trilogy. Speaking of games that we always go to bat for on this channel, the Banner Saga is another franchise we always go to bat for, and it's amazing to me that I have to go to bat for the Banner Saga, because when you look at the franchise itself, you look at what it is, it seems to be a blueprint for commercial success, but it really hasn't hit that next level. It's done alright, but I feel like a lot more people need to play the Banner Saga. What is it? It's a historical Viking-themed strategy RPG with incredible storytelling, great music, and by the way, those visuals are awesome. Now earlier this year, the Banner Saga 3 was released wrapping up the trilogy, but these games you need to play them sequentially. So play the Banner Saga 1, then play the Banner Saga 2, and then play the Banner Saga 3. For those of you that have never played the Banner Saga, well, I've got good news for you because you can check out the Banner Saga Trilogy. That's a physical copy of the game. $40 gets you all 3 Banner Saga games. That is an absolute steal. A lot of gameplay, a lot of great gameplay at that, an amazing story, and all the greatness of Banner Saga in one collection at one low price. Definitely give this a look if you've never played Banner Saga, and if you played the first 2 titles, well, it's time to check out the 3rd game. And lastly, we have Owlboy. Owlboy is another pixel art game, a story-driven action-adventure platformer with a variety of different gameplay elements. Owlboy was a game that was released on PC back in 2016, I believe, and it was received very, very well on PC, but it didn't get that immense commercial reception. It was later released on consoles, and it was once again received very, very well, but not enough people checked it out. Maybe it's the pricing, maybe that $25 price point is a little bit too expensive, but it's a great platformer. And again, just like Celeste, if you're even remotely into platformers, Owlboy is a game that you have to check out. But even more so than Celeste, I think Owlboy is even more underrated, and that's a shame because it is an excellent platformer. Make sure you give it a look. At the very least, when it's on sale, grab it then. So that's gonna conclude this video, the top 10 PlayStation 4 single player games of 2018 so far. What do you think? What have been your favorite single player games of 2018 so far? Do you think we forgot to mention a game? And what upcoming single player games do you think will definitely be added to this list by the end of the year? Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.